The prevailing model of cloud computing relies on a dangerous assumption that you can trust the underlying infrastructure. But in a hostile memory environment, the host operating system, the network fabric, and the supply chain are assumed to be compromised. Your application and its security tools operate at ring 0 and resume operation. The virtualized clock is then adjusted to mask the interruption. The hypervisor feeds perfectly spoofed telemetry back to your operating system, convincing your software that execution has been continuous. Traditional security tools, like endpoint detection and response, function at the same privilege level as your operating system. They rely entirely on the hypervisor's reports, making them completely blind to an attack occurring at ring -1. If you do not control the physical silicon, any defense operating purely at the software abstraction layer is an illusion. To achieve true node sovereignty, we have to discard logical software abstractions and anchor our trust boundary directly into physical constants. This system enforces security through 3 distinct physical mechanisms: silicon architecture, electromagnetic latency, and thermodynamic monitoring. The first requirement is transforming abstract virtualized code into a specific, physically bound apparatus. We strip away the concept of generic virtual CPUs. The infrastructure code mandates exact silicon specifications for every execution. By binding the system to the immutable laws of physics rather than easily manipulated software policies, we remove the hypervisor's ability to forge the state of the environment. This process begins before a single server spins up. A master auditor pipeline semantically parses all infrastructure as code definitions. The auditor explicitly searches the configuration files to enforce strict hardware pinning, verifying that the target machines utilize AMD Milan architecture to support Secure Encrypted Virtualization. This specific hardware routes memory encryption keys directly to an on-die platform security processor. This ensures the RAM remains cryptographically opaque, even to the entity that owns the physical hypervisor. The configuration policy also strictly forbids live migration. If the physical host requires maintenance, the instance is programmed to terminate immediately. This prevents a specific exploit known as a teleportation attack, where a hostile cloud provider surreptitiously migrates a virtual machine across geographic borders to a jurisdiction with weaker privacy laws. To counter this, the Enclave verifies its geographic location using latency triangulation via raw network sockets. The system transmits probe packets to trusted reference nodes and measures the round-trip propagation delay directly through the transmission media. A compromised hypervisor can alter an IP address, but it cannot falsify the speed of light in fiber optic glass. Any round-trip time exceeding the maximum 15-millisecond threshold mathematically proves the physical node has been relocated. By relying on electromagnetic propagation delay, the system geometrically geofences the workload. Physical theft or geographic migration becomes impossible to hide. Securing the physical location is only the first step. We must also defend against the silent observer, microarchitectural side-channel attacks that exploit the processor itself to bypass memory encryption. We rely on a fundamental thermodynamic principle: observation requires energy. A hypervisor attempting to inspect a guest must consume shared hardware resources. To detect this, the system runs a microcode Sentry, a continuous background process executing a highly deterministic mathematical workload, specifically a simple integer fold. This calculation is deliberately engineered to be small enough to execute entirely and exclusively within the processor's level 1 cache, isolating it from main memory variants. This waveform shows the exact number of CPU cycles consumed. The Sentry uses hardware timestamp counters to bracket the execution of the workload, measuring physical friction with single-cycle precision. When a malicious hypervisor probes the shared L3 cache or pauses the virtual machine to inspect memory, it introduces physical interference. This creates a time dilation effect. The deterministic workload suddenly consumes measurably more clock cycles than its established baseline. If this variance exceeds a strict 3 standard deviation threshold, it provides mathematical proof of external observation. The microcode Sentry leverages the physical friction of the silicon as an active sonar, exposing introspection attacks that remain entirely invisible to the logical operating system. Once an intrusion is detected, standard security protocols dictate logging the event and initiating a graceful shutdown. In a hostile memory environment, this response is lethal. A graceful exit creates a snapshot gap, a 50 to 500 millisecond window where the hypervisor can simply freeze the system and dump the volatile memory before the shutdown completes. The only viable defense is a failed DAD posture. The system must prioritize the immediate physical destruction of its cryptographic material over system availability. But destroying data in memory introduces a hidden technical hurdle: modern optimizing compilers. Through dead store elimination, compilers silently erase memory clearing instructions if data won't be read again. The code looks secure, but the binary leaves keys intact. To guarantee destruction, the Enclave relies on specific primitives that bypass the compiler entirely, forcing mandatory hardware-level writes. Because abstract programming logic will actively optimize away your security measures, true data destruction requires directly commanding the physical memory controller. This triggers the final defense mechanism, the Hermetic Panic Protocol. The moment the active sonar detects an anomaly, the system executes volatile write operations to physically scorch the cryptographic keys currently held in RAM. It overwrites those specific memory addresses with high entropy noise, maximizing the magnetic state changes in the DRAM cells to eliminate any chance of forensic cold boot recovery. Next, the system must terminate, but it completely bypasses standard exception handlers. It executes a hardware-level abort, terminating the process instantly without unwinding the call stack. This no-unwind property guarantees that compromised cleanup routines or destructors cannot be hooked by the attacker to exfiltrate data on the way down. From the moment a microarchitectural anomaly is detected, through the memory wipe to the final abort, the entire sequence completes in under 689 microseconds. Node sovereignty cannot be achieved through trust, and it cannot be enforced through software policies. True isolation is achieved by binding the environment to the immutable laws of thermodynamics and ensuring that if compromised, the Enclave dies hermetically before it can surrender its secrets.